Good morning. We're excited to be here this morning. My name is Bemitra Salter Liggins. First of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Castor for the opportunity to serve on this committee for such an important community initiative. Where you live is arguably one of the most important elements of each of our lives. And for the past several months, the advisory committee, comprised of members of the business community, neighborhood partners, educational liaisons, we've worked very hard, several meetings, lots of discussions, heated discussions, to come up with tangible solutions to address housing affordability in Tampa. So we had a thoughtful and collaborative process. And I would like to now invite our great mayor, Mayor Castor, to share the recommendations from the city. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Castor.
Thank you, Bamitra. Good afternoon or good morning to everybody. Today is a very, very exciting day for the city of Tampa. My Housing Affordability Advisory Team has been hard at work tackling an issue that affects every neighborhood across our city. And today we're very proud to share the final report and recommendations. Before we get started on that, I want to first thank many folks who participated in this important work, starting with the co-chairs of the overall advisory effort. And that means all five advisory teams. Former City Council member Harry Cohen and former CFO Sonia Little. Our transition lead and now the city administrator of economic and our development and economic opportunity, Carol Post, hiding back there in the back, and the brilliant co-chairs of our housing affordability team, Tyler Hudson, Tom Scott, and Bamitra Liggins. Thank you guys very, very much. And most importantly, I'd like to recognize and thank the advisory team members, many of whom are standing here behind me. The time and effort and input each of you put into this effort has greatly illuminated the way toward a brighter future for every one of our residents. A future where thousands of Tampanians in our community can enjoy a place that they can proudly call home. To the members of City Council in attendance, we have, I don't think Luis Vieira has made it yet. We have John Dingfelder, Guido Maniscalco, Orlando Goods, Joe Citro, and then Charlie Miranda is missing in action right now as well. But to the members of the City Council, we're on a journey together, and we cannot do this without each and every one of you. And I appreciate the cooperative working relationship that we have enjoyed that has made so much progress in our city to date in a very, very short amount of time. As you all know, oh, Bill Carlson, is he here? No. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. As we all know, Tampa is a fast-growing city. Our skyline is rapidly changing, and more people are moving here every single day. Tampa is the third most populous city in Florida, and it's not hard to see why. With our beautiful weather, vibrant neighborhoods, and thriving economy, it's no wonder so many people want to plant their seeds in Tampa and watch them grow. But population growth can often result in unintended challenges, particularly limited supply and high demand for housing. While we've experienced a construction boom in recent years, less than 5% of our residential permits issued in Tampa for the year of 2019 were for affordable housing units. And that is a real issue. In some of Tampa's traditionally lower income and working class neighborhoods, housing costs have increased dramatically over the past decade. This can often price out certain longtime residents, and in doing so can often change the character of the entire neighborhood. As a lifelong Tampanian who lives in Seminole Heights, I believe that everyone should have the chance to live in a place that they're proud to call home. And they shouldn't have to worry whether they can continue to afford a roof over their head. If we want to prevent ourselves from falling into the same pitfalls that some cities such as San Francisco and Boston, where it's nearly impossible to afford a one-bedroom apartment, much less own a home, we have to act now. And we have to work together to ensure there are sufficient housing options for all Tampanians to afford. And that's why housing affordability is one of my 5 priorities in transforming Tampa's tomorrow. When this advisory team started, they first identified several foundational findings that informed their work. First was embracing the concept that housing affordability is meant to apply across a wide range of income levels and needs, regardless of community use definitions. There is no one size fits all. So the team focused on solutions that serve many different needs. For example, the working family that earns too much to qualify for HUD assistance, but not enough to reasonably afford a house at the current market rate. We have to balance the scales so that everyone who works in Tampa has a chance to live in Tampa. Second was to know the full extent of the need. The team determined that the most effective solutions are based on a well-defined problem, not just throwing darts and hoping to hit a target. For that reason, it was recommended to partner with the Hillsborough County and others to comprehensively determine the housing needs across our entire community so that we can better align solutions. And lastly, emphasizing that the city can and should step in and do what we can to close the need gap so Tampanians at all income levels have access to housing that they can afford. With those fundamentals as a backdrop, let me share the specific recommendations from our team. The Housing Affordability Advisory Team identified both tactical and strategical recommendations focused on 3 main action areas. First, housing supply and programs. Second, policy and alignment. And third, community outreach and engagement. First, let me speak about housing supply and programs. The first step to securing housing that all of Tampa can afford is ensuring that the supply can meet the demand. Over the years, the city has initiated many successful support programs and added thousands of affordable housing units across a wide variety of locations. This includes the Nehemiah Project in Sulphur Springs, Beacon Homes, Domain Homes, and Genesis in East Tampa, and Encore in downtown North. While these efforts have helped many families, it hasn't been enough to bridge the gap between supply, demand, and affordability. For more than a decade, the number of new residents moving into Tampa has outnumbered the new housing units built. This has caused both rent and market rates to rise, and it's forced middle and lower income residents to compete for the same real estate options, which is why we need a different approach and why today I'm kicking off a plan to initiate a new program that has been successful in many other jurisdictions, and that is a community land trust. A community land trust will enable the city to more effectively secure and convey vacant properties and manage the land that we already own so that it can be converted to meet our housing needs. By establishing a trust to govern this land, we can cut the red tape and streamline the process of making land available for development in line with our residents' needs. And it's no surprise that we're once again talking about cutting red tape. It'll be a common theme and practice in our administration. A community land trust will provide us a new tool to significantly increase the affordable housing supply. As such, we're setting an ambitious target for us to focus on, increasing our annual production of housing units by 20% by the year 2027. But we are definitely up for that challenge. In addition to adding new units, we're also focusing on ways to preserve housing that already exists in our community. We're taking action to restore and preserve at least 100 existing housing units annually by working with organizations like Rebuilding Together Tampa Bay, Habitat for Humanity, and many others. And across the board, we're expanding our community outreach and collaboration by bolstering the many current programs that help residents afford rent and achieve the dream of home ownership. In just the past 2 years, the city invested more than $25 million in housing affordability through a variety of assistance programs. Some of those examples include the rental subsidy program to help qualifying residents offset the cost of rent, especially for those emerging from homelessness. The Dare to Dream program, which offers down payment assistance for first-time home buyers, and the owner-occupied rehab program to help homeowners afford critical home improvement projects like repairing their roof or completing major system repairs. We also want to grow our collaborations, such as the one with the Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative and Hillsborough County, which recently set a target to house 560 homeless individuals in 560 days. And we're very glad to have Commission Chair Kimberly Overman here with us today. In addition to these existing programs, we also want to embrace new initiatives and solutions to meet those housing needs. This means we have to work together with developers, financial stakeholders, and local partners, because housing affordability is a community-wide issue that will require a community-wide effort. That's why today I'm excited to announce that the City of Tampa plans to release a new request for proposal, or as we commonly refer to, an RFP, for development of this 18-acre parcel of land that we're sitting on right now. With this RFP, I hear the developers all clapping. With this RFP, we'll be seeking development proposals that align with city housing affordability needs to become a partner in an ambitious new development program. But we cannot do it ourselves. Before we finalize the RFP, we will launch a series of feedback meetings with the West Tampa community and work together to formulate the comprehensive criteria we expect to be included with all of the responses. This effort is intended to incorporate the voice of the community and to appreciate the West Tampa charm and diversity and offer meaningful and strategic development for the entire neighborhood. The RFP will focus on some of our core tenets for transforming Tampa's tomorrow. Sustainability and resilience will be at the forefront, incorporating the use of solar to reduce the building's carbon footprint, incentivizing local source building materials, and ensuring sustainability by incorporating FEMA's 2020 flood elevations to guard against sea level rise. All of those initiatives will be emphasized in the RFP. This RFP will also focus on transportation. I've said it a million times. Transportation is our Achilles heel. And unless we start to develop with that in mind, our children and our children's children will be forced to deal with even more gridlock, pollution, and loss of upward mobility and opportunity that this generation is facing. Transportation is about more than getting from point A to B. It's about equity. It's about access to jobs. It's about education, food, and quality, affordable health care. It's also about ensuring that all of our neighborhoods have access to Tampa's finest amenities. That's why this RFP will focus on providing vendor spaces for micro-mobility options, HART bus stops, and creating a connection to the Tampa Riverwalk linking West Tampa to our downtown. And ultimately, focus on housing affordability and making sure the approved RFP is laser focused to ensuring there's an appropriate percentage of affordable housing, workforce housing, and market rate housing, and that when complete will be a place for all of West Tampa to live, work, and play, because we believe that everyone who works in Tampa should have a chance to live in Tampa. We will also focus on policy and alignment. Just like the Transportation and Development Advisory teams, there's a dire need to update our land development codes. They have to better align with our vision for an evolving city. Our administration in coordination and collaboration with our council will do just that. Our city's land development code should support land development, not stand in its way. In its current state, certain sections of the code impede the production of affordable housing units and create unnecessary costs that ultimately fall on the buyer or the tenant. We have to update our zoning and land use codes to better meet our community's needs. By making strategic changes, we can address both housing affordability and transportation needs. For example, the minimum parking rates and the maximum density allowances are both areas of the code that should be updated to reflect current needs and future trends. By modifying parking requirements, we can incentivize new mobility solutions while at the same time driving down the building and development costs. We can explore changes like this because car ownership is declining and people are increasingly seeking to live closer to where they work. Particularly important is to address the need for workforce housing that is located closer to our workforce hubs. As such, I'm challenging staff to think outside the box and embrace change as we look around the country for best practices that we can replicate, such as tiny homes and container homes. I look forward to working with Chairman Vieira and our City Council on all of these ideas. I think we can all agree that if we want to transform our city's future, we have to take a comprehensive approach. And that means transportation and housing have to work hand in hand to support mutually beneficial solutions. By working together on code revisions that just make sense, we can streamline key housing projects, reduce unnecessary costs and hurdles, and make it easier for residents to live comfortably within our city limits. And finally, but perhaps most importantly, we will be hyper-focused and have continued involvement and collaboration with our community voices. Currently, we're fortunate to have dozens of nonprofit agencies, developers, and other organizations that offer housing assistance to residents in our community. But while there are a lot of resources out there, the information sometimes doesn't make it to the residents who need it most. And that brings us to our third set of recommendations, which involve synthesizing community outreach and engagement. We want to make it as easy as possible for residents to get the resources and information they need to achieve housing security. This means that as a city, we have to utilize all of our communication channels, including social media, newspapers, TV, websites, you name it, to engage our neighborhoods and reach residents in every corner of our city. We also need to centralize information and create a one-stop shop for housing assistance program information. Earlier this month, we hosted another community resource fair, which offered housing resources as well as bilingual workshops, a job fair, and much more. Events like these enable us to engage our community and connect with residents the resources that can improve their quality of life. We need to continue making this information easily available to the public by updating and expanding our housing and community development website, cataloging housing and affordability materials, and increasing access to housing counseling services, which is a key component to any housing strategy. As you all know, housing affordability is an important dynamic issue. It's a challenge that transcends all neighborhoods and affects the wellness and financial stability of individuals and families throughout our community. Right now is such an exciting time to live, work, and play in our city, and Tampa continues every day to show that it is the place to be. With exciting events on the horizon, like WrestleMania and the Super Bowl, and new developments around every corner like Midtown and Water Street, it's no wonder so many people are moving to Tampa every day. But as we look at the future, the cost of housing will be an increasingly important issue. And Tampa's not alone in this. Housing affordability is a challenge facing cities around the country. So in order to strategically grow and keep our rich history, diverse makeup, and individual identities of each of our neighborhoods, we will tackle it with community-driven solutions. We need to address these challenges now so that Tampanians don't have to face the threat of housing insecurity, so that single moms don't have to work 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their kids' head, so that bright young minds can afford a place to live while they go to school, and elderly residents don't get priced out of the neighborhoods that they grew up in. The recommendations discussed here today and our plan, our administration has for the future will serve as our roadmap as we work with local, state, and federal partners to address our housing needs and find actionable solutions. And we've already hit the ground running. Our partners at the Tampa Bay Chamber, who I know are here in attendance today, and their Housing Affordability Committee recently issued a set of observations about workforce housing that perfectly align with our advisory team efforts. As a member of the advisory team, Karen Arnold from the Chamber will help keep our efforts aligned so that we chart the same course and combine resources to ensure that together we lift up our entire community. We also plan to look to the city's Affordability Housing Committee, known as AHOC, and its chair, Harry Hedges, to help hold us accountable to execute their recommendations and commitment. We cannot do it alone. I want to emphasize the need for a collaborative approach with our City Council. The success of these initiatives is dependent upon working together to make effective decisions, even if it may not always be popular. At the end of the day, housing and shelter are some of the most basic needs. And here in Tampa, I want to build a city where everyone who works can afford a place that they are proud to call their home. Right now is the time to build the city that we all want to live in together. The city that we want to raise our kids in and where our kids will want to have their own home someday. But if we want to get there, we have to work together to make housing affordability a reality for all who call Tampa home. I want to once again thank the Housing Affordability Advisory Team for all the work that they've put into these recommendations. I know without a doubt of the 5 advisory teams, this was the most difficult topic to tackle. I look forward to working with our City Council, community partners, developers, stakeholders, and residents to bridge the need gap, embrace housing affordability, and transform Tampa's tomorrow for all Tampanians. Thank you all very, very much.